In public, every move you make is a silent announcement of power, whether you hold it or whether you've already given it away. Most people don't lose power in some dramatic clash or grand betrayal. They lose it in everyday moments, in silence, in carelessness, in the little things that seem harmless but destroy respect. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He warned that the stage of public life is not neutral. It's not a safe place. It's a battlefield, a theater, a coliseum. The crowd is always watching, and in their eyes you are either the predator or the prey, the ruler or the fool. You don't get to choose whether you're judged. You only get to choose what you show them. So today, we're not talking about what to do in public. We're talking about what you must never do. 9 fatal mistakes that, once made, instantly lower your standing in the eyes of others. These aren't rules of politeness. They're laws of survival. Because respect in public life is not freely given. It's enforced. Mistake 1. Revealing your emotions. Never let the crowd see your raw emotions. Not when you're angry, not when you're afraid, not even when your world is quietly collapsing. Machiavelli knew that emotions, when exposed, don't inspire sympathy. They invite exploitation. When you cry in public, others don't see pain. They see an opening. When you rage, they don't hear your sense of injustice. They see instability. When you panic, they don't step in to help. They smell blood in the water. In the public arena, authenticity is a gamble, not a strength. Those who can control their expression, who can remain stoic, unreadable, and mysterious, they carry the aura of power. Because what's more dangerous? A man you can read like a children's book, or one whose thoughts are locked behind sealed walls? Smile when you're furious. Speak calmly when you're under attack. Keep your face still when your heart is screaming. Mystery is power, and public emotion is surrender. Mistake 2. Arguing loudly in public. Here's a truth people hate to accept. The moment your voice rises, your power drops. Shouting in public doesn't prove dominance. It proves insecurity. Loud men believe that volume wins arguments, but those who need to shout have already exposed themselves as emotionally undisciplined. Think of a true ruler. Would he scream before the mob? Would he explain himself to those beneath him? Of course not. He knows that silence can crush louder than words. When 2 men argue in public, both look foolish. But the one who stays calm, measured, and quiet, he becomes untouchable. People don't remember the point of the argument. They remember who lost control. And once you're seen as someone who can be provoked into raising your voice, you've handed the world a map of your weaknesses. Power isn't proven by noise. It's proven by restraint. Mistake 3. Showing desperation. Desperation is the scent of weakness. It leaks out in your posture, your tone, your eagerness to please, your constant need for approval. And once others detect it, you stop being someone they respect and start being someone they can use. When you ask too eagerly, people say no. Not because they can't say yes, but because your need makes you cheap. When you cling, they pull away. When you show that you need them more than they need you, you've already given them the upper hand. Even if your world is falling apart, even if your allies are gone, your resources drained, you must project calm. Stand tall. Look unbothered. Walk as though nothing is missing. Because when people believe you're fine, they treat you as valuable. But when they sense desperation, they treat you as disposable. A prince never begs, and neither should you. Mistake 4. Over-flattering in public. Here's another fatal mistake. Showering others with endless compliments, praise, and admiration. People think it's harmless. They think being generous with praise wins favor. But in public, over-flattery doesn't earn respect. it destroys it. Why? Because the one who flatters too much signals weakness. He signals dependence. He places himself beneath the person he's praising, and in doing so, lowers his own standing in front of everyone. Machiavelli would say, "A single, precise compliment delivered at the right time can build an alliance." But endless admiration, it makes your words cheap. It makes you look like you're trying to buy approval, and the man who seeks approval is already powerless. Praise should be like a dagger wrapped in velvet, soft but sharp when it matters. Never more than necessary, never so much that it looks like submission. Mistake 5. Publicly criticizing others. Now, this may surprise you, but never, ever openly criticize someone in public, even if they deserve it, even if you're right. Public humiliation doesn't just wound ego, it provokes vengeance. When you criticize someone in front of a crowd, you don't just hurt their pride. You plant a seed of retaliation. They may smile, they may nod, they may even pretend to agree. But inside, they're already plotting. And when they strike back, it won't be in public where you can defend yourself. It will be in private when your guard is down. Even worse, the audience judges you too. They wonder, who will he turn on next? They may even distrust you for your boldness. Public criticism feels powerful in the moment, but in reality, it creates enemies, invites suspicion, and stains your reputation. The wise man doesn't waste energy on loud attacks. He undermines quietly. He plants doubt subtly. He lets others come to the conclusion themselves, while his hands remain clean. That's the first 5. In the next section, we'll cover the rest, mistakes 6 through 9, and Machiavelli's chilling conclusion about how to carry yourself in public without ever surrendering power. We've covered the first 5 fatal mistakes: revealing your emotions, arguing loudly, showing desperation, flattering too much, and publicly criticizing others. Each of these errors makes you predictable, vulnerable, or hated. But there are 4 more mistakes, just as destructive, and they strike at the core of how others perceive your presence. Let's continue. Mistake 6. Trying to be the funniest in the room. Humor is seductive. Make people laugh, and for a moment you feel accepted, liked, maybe even admired. But here's the problem. Laughter is not respect. In fact, the more people laugh at your jokes, the less seriously they take you. The jester entertains the court, but he never sits on the throne. When you become the funny one, you stop being the formidable one. People enjoy your company, but they don't fear disappointing you. They don't measure their words around you. They don't look at you as someone with gravity. You become familiar, predictable, safe. And in the arena of power, safe means irrelevant. Worse, every joke reveals something about you. A trace of insecurity, a hidden resentment, a private desire. The wrong listener will catch what others miss, and one day use it against you. The truly powerful don't seek laughter. They seek weight. They use silence, observation, and presence to draw respect. And when they do speak, every word lands like a strike, not a punchline. Mistake 7. Oversharing your personal life. This one destroys more reputations than anything else. Oversharing. Revealing too much about your pain, your plans, your regrets, your ambitions. Most people believe openness builds trust, that sharing your struggles makes you relatable. But Machiavelli knew the truth. In public, every detail you give away is ammunition. Your heartbreak becomes gossip. Your failures become stories retold in whispers. Your dreams become tools for manipulation. When you reveal too much, you dissolve the aura around you. Mystery fades. Familiarity grows. And once people feel they fully understand you, they stop respecting you. The prince doesn't reveal his wounds in public. He reveals his weapons. He doesn't speak from the heart. He speaks from the mask. Because he knows one thing: the more the crowd knows about your private life, the less they fear your presence. Mystery breeds authority. Familiarity breeds contempt. Mistake 8. Flaunting your wealth or success. This one feels counterintuitive because society constantly pushes the idea that success should be displayed. The cars, the watches, the vacations, the status symbols. But Machiavelli would warn, flaunting success doesn't inspire admiration, it breeds resentment. The more you show off, the more you remind others of what they lack. And envy doesn't speak, it plots. People rarely attack the weak. They attack the one who parades his abundance. Even those who smile at your displays may secretly despise them, because your arrogance becomes a mirror of their frustration. And resentment is the seed of rebellion. It's far more powerful to imply success than to scream it. Let others suspect you're wealthy, suspect you're powerful, suspect you're more influential than they realized. Subtlety makes people curious. Flaunting makes people hate. The greatest shield is modesty, even when it's only an illusion. Mistake 9. Losing control of your body or voice. Here is the final mistake. The one that silently destroys authority before you even open your mouth. Losing control of your body language, your tone, your presence. The crowd reads you long before it hears you. Every fidget, every slump in posture, every stutter, every darting glance, it's all a broadcast of uncertainty. You may have the best ideas, the sharpest arguments, the most brilliant strategies, but if your hands shake, if your voice cracks, if your shoulders drop, no one remembers your logic. They remember your weakness. Power is presence before it is words. A man who carries himself with stillness, composure, and measured breath terrifies those who rely on chaos, because unreadable calm is harder to attack than any argument. Control your body. Control your voice. Control the silence between your words. Because dominance begins not in what you say, but in how you appear while saying nothing at all. These are the 9 mistakes you must never make in public. But Machiavelli didn't give us this list as etiquette. He gave it as survival. Because in public life, you are always being tested, weighed, and judged. Not with fairness, but with instinct. And most people lose their crown not in battle, but in tiny slips of weakness. In the next part, we'll go deeper into Machiavelli's final warning. Why reputation is armor, why silence is your sword, and why your public image is your kingdom. So now you know the 9 fatal mistakes. But here's the deeper truth. Avoiding these mistakes isn't just about good behavior. It's about survival. Machiavelli wasn't giving us tips for being polite. He was giving us the blueprint for not being destroyed in a world where every eye is watching and every weakness is recorded. Think of public life as a stage. Everyone is performing, whether they admit it or not. And every time you step outside your door, into work, into a meeting, into a social gathering, you are being judged. Not fairly, not kindly. You're being judged on how you appear. And here's the brutal part. Perception matters more than reality. Machiavelli knew this. He wrote that men judge more by the eye than by the hand. Meaning people don't care what you actually are. They care what you look like. That's why these mistakes are deadly. Because the moment you slip, people stop seeing you as strong and start labeling you as weak. Reputation is armor. Your reputation is your armor. It walks into the room before you. It shields you when you're silent. It protects you even when you're absent. But that armor is fragile. Every emotional outburst, every desperate plea, every slip of dignity, it's like taking a hammer to your own defenses. Once people stop respecting you, it's almost impossible to rebuild. Which is why Machiavelli's first commandment in public life is this: never expose your true weaknesses to the crowd. Your reputation isn't built on honesty, it's built on control. Silence is a weapon. When you think of weapons, you imagine swords, guns, armies. But in social power, silence cuts deeper than steel. Silence unsettles. Silence makes people lean in, wondering what you're holding back. When you stay silent after an insult, you create discomfort. When you stay silent in a heated moment, you force others to reveal themselves. When you speak less, every word you do say carries weight. And here's the paradox: the less you give, the more they chase. Because people are drawn to mystery. They respect what they can't fully understand. That's why Machiavelli would tell you, stop over-explaining, stop clarifying, stop giving people the full map of who you are. The more you reveal, the less you are feared. The body as a message. Before you even say a word, your body has already announced your status. A slouched posture says defeat. A darting gaze says insecurity. A trembling hand says weakness. But the man who stands tall, who moves slowly, who breathes deeply, he radiates control. He doesn't need to fight for respect. His stillness is the fight. This is why great leaders of history didn't always have to shout or argue. They carried themselves in such a way that people instinctively treated them with reverence. Presence speaks louder than words. Everyday surrender. Here's the danger. Most people don't lose respect in one big dramatic moment. They lose it piece by piece. A laugh that went too far. A desperate comment. A shaky voice in the wrong meeting. A compliment that sounded like begging. One slip may seem small, but repeated over time, it builds an image. And once the public forms an image of you as weak, desperate, or foolish, that image sticks. They'll never see you the same again. This is why Machiavelli's rules are harsh. Because the world is harsh. You're not judged on your intentions. You're judged on your composure. In the next section, we'll uncover Machiavelli's ultimate lesson, why most people hand away their power without even knowing it, and how to reverse that trend by mastering perception, silence, and discipline in every public arena. Let's dig deeper into Machiavelli's warning. Why do these mistakes matter so much? Why does it matter if you laugh too much, if you share a little too openly, or if you raise your voice in an argument? Because in public life, you're not just communicating with words, you're broadcasting signals. Every gesture, every reaction, every slip tells the crowd how to treat you. And once they decide you are safe to disrespect, you never get that respect back. Most people lose their authority not because someone overpowered them, but because they exposed themselves. They surrendered their throne without realizing they were even sitting on one. The theater of public life. Imagine the world as a stage. Everyone is acting. Everyone is watching. You don't get to step off the stage, whether you're at work, at dinner, or simply walking into a room. Eyes are on you. The question is, what role are you playing? Are you the ruler or the fool? Machiavelli taught that if you do not control your image, someone else will. If you don't take charge of your reputation, others will shape it for you, and rarely in your favor. That's why the mistakes we've covered aren't about etiquette. They're about strategy. Never revealing emotions, never arguing loudly, never showing desperation, never flattering, never criticizing publicly, never trying to be the clown, never oversharing, never flaunting, never losing control. These are the shields that keep your image intact in the eyes of the crowd. Predictability is death. Think about it. When you expose your emotions, when you argue loudly, when you overshare, you become predictable. People know exactly what will trigger you. They know how to control you. And once you're predictable, you're already defeated. The unpredictable man. The unreadable man. The one who holds back his thoughts and his emotions. He becomes a mystery. And mystery always carries power. Mystery versus familiarity. We live in a culture that glorifies openness. Be yourself. Be authentic. Share your story. But Machiavelli would laugh at that. Because in the Colosseum of public life, openness is suicide. The more familiar you become, the less respect you hold. Familiarity breeds contempt. Mystery breeds intrigue. And intrigue is power. Think of the people who command respect when they walk into a room. It's not because they've told everyone their life story. It's because people don't fully understand them. They're careful with their words. They don't reveal everything. They leave gaps, and those gaps pull people in. The illusion of modesty. Here's another key. Flaunting success makes enemies, but implying success makes followers. When you show off, you awaken envy. When you remain subtle, you awaken curiosity. And curiosity is far safer than envy. It's far more powerful to let people suspect your greatness than to force them to see it. Machiavelli would tell you, let your power be felt, not flaunted. Control is everything. At the heart of all this is control. Control over your words. Control over your body. Control over your reputation. And above all, control over yourself. Because if you cannot command yourself, you cannot command others. In the final part, we'll bring everything together. Machiavelli's ultimate lesson on how to defend your public image like a kingdom. Why silence is sharper than any blade. And why your presence must always radiate controlled strength. We've reached the end of Machiavelli's warning. And now it's time to tie it all together. These 9 mistakes are not random. They form a complete philosophy of how to survive in the theater of public life. Machiavelli's world was brutal. Renaissance Italy was full of plots, betrayals, shifting alliances. But here's the secret. Your world isn't so different. The stakes may not always be life and death, but the psychology is the same. Respect, influence, and opportunity. They're all determined not by who you are privately, but by how you appear publicly. Your reputation is your armor. Think of your reputation as a shield you carry everywhere. It defends you even when you're silent. It makes people cautious before they approach. It speaks for you when you say nothing. But that armor is fragile. Every public mistake, every emotional slip, every desperate word, every sign of weakness cracks it. Once your armor is broken, you're vulnerable. And in this world, no one will protect your heart. They'll play with it. They'll exploit it. Which is why you must guard your reputation with absolute discipline. Your silence is your sword. Machiavelli's great insight was this. Silence is not weakness. Silence is a weapon. When you stay silent in the face of provocation, you force others to reveal themselves. When you don't rush to defend, explain, or justify, people begin to question what you know, what you're planning, what you're holding back. Silence unsettles. It makes others lean in. It builds an aura of danger around you, because people fear what they can't predict. Your presence is your kingdom. Before you even speak, you've already declared who you are. the way you stand, the way you walk, the way you hold yourself in a room. All of these send signals louder than words. Machiavelli understood that true dominance isn't built through endless explanations or loud proclamations. It's carved silently into the way you carry yourself when the world is watching. Stand tall, breathe slowly, move deliberately, speak rarely, but with precision. That's how you make your presence feel like a fortress. The laws of survival. Now let's return to the 9 mistakes. Never reveal your emotions. Never argue loudly in public. Never display desperation. Never overflatter. Never criticize openly. Never try to be the funniest. Never overshare. Never flaunt wealth or success. Never lose control of your body or voice. These aren't rules of manners. They're laws of survival. Break them, and you don't just lose respect, you lose your ability to protect yourself. Machiavelli's final message is simple. You walk among wolves. Every glance is a judgment. Every word is a calculation. Every gesture is a test. You don't get to opt out. The world is always watching, and the world is always writing your story. So either you defend your reputation, or you let others define it for you. Either you carry yourself like a prince, or you end up a fool, laughed at, forgotten, or devoured. The choice. The next time you step into a public space, remember this. Your reputation is your armor. Your silence is your sword. And your presence, your body, your composure, your discipline, that is your kingdom. Defend it or lose it. Rule or be ruled. And above all, never forget the world is always watching.